Good morning, good evening to wherever you are in the world, or good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Hour. So we got a jam-packed stream for you today. All right, we're going to be going over a ton of stuff. We have a new ETF that just dropped. I think it's also, going to be kind of a competitor. It's good that ETFs are now dropping out that are about the memory trade, right? Because there's only been really a handful. So I think this is just giving investors more optionality. We'll be talking a little bit about, some geopolitics news and kind of going over that stuff, where we're at currently. All right. We'll be talking a little bit about Intel, maybe some Seagate. All right. And then we'll move on to a crypto segment where we have quite a bit to talk about. So this should be a very fun stream. Hope you guys are doing well out there. I know the market today was absolutely brutal. There was a sell-off basically across the memory, semiconductor trade. Tons of names were hit. Software was hit. Just nothing was safe from today's sell-off. Well, that's a lie. There was some safety. I mean, we all, you can look at the consumer defensive or probably healthcare, which we'll cover here in a moment. There was actually some safety. Financials actually had a lot of safety. But anyways, neither here nor there. Let's see who we got in the chat so far. Right now, we got Sergio up in the chat. I am here, alive and breathing. Well, I hope so. Man, we gotta talk about quantum one day, man. Like I think you should come on the show at some point and just talk your game about quantum, because I think the audience would definitely like that. We have Grumpy Toad up in the chat. Hello, says Grumpy Toad. Well, hello to you. All right. And just for some quick house cleaning, we are actually streaming on another channel today, and that is my brand new channel that I am getting up and going. It's primarily going to be about investing and the macro stuff that we talk about every day on stream. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Again, always appreciate you guys. This is the new page. This is the new channel. So if you guys aren't subscribed, go ahead and check that out. That will be different than my previous channel, which was more so focused on high yield ETFs, income generation, that kind of stuff. And the reason why I'm doing it is because it is very, very difficult to get away from the algorithm, right? Once the algorithm has you locked in a certain niche or certain keywords, it's really hard to get out of it. And I can look at my own analytics for all my videos, and I can see that videos with more like high yield stuff gets way more clicks. I mean, I talked about the debasement trade here, something extremely important, especially in today's environment. 1,000 views, right? And then other videos surrounding high yield and everything else. I mean, that's what I built the channel on, right? So a lot of clicks and views there. But whenever I do the live streams, they don't get as much, and it has to do with the way the keywords and everything is placed into those live streams. So I am starting a whole new channel altogether. Excuse me. I'm starting a whole new channel altogether, just to go over macro news. I'll be talking about stocks. I'll be talking about my own individual picks, some ideas, maybe some deep analysis or deep dives. So it should be fun. It should be fun. So I'll be publishing a video here on this channel, on this new channel, in the near future. So let's see what we got here. And apologize if my computer freezes from time to time. I've narrowed it down. It is the memory. Funny enough, the memory trade. So now it is memory that is impacting my computer. Google Chrome is absolutely eating all of my memory. So I either need to order some new memory or close out windows as I go through them. So then that will stop the freezing on my end. I don't think you guys can see it, because right now, actually, my computer is frozen, and I'm waiting for it to get back to normal. Hopefully anytime soon. It's crazy. This never happened until recently, and I think it had to do with an update on Microsoft's end. So now I'm bearish Microsoft. Let's see if this comes back anytime soon. Come on. All right. So I see we have Overseer Prime up in the chat. Hey, welcome. Appreciate you joining. Let's see. We got the dividend, the stock analyst. We subscribe to you for high yield ETFs. That's why when other topic videos come, we don't click, which makes sense. I love your ETF videos. Missed you the last few months. Appreciate that. The stock analyst. And you're absolutely right. That's why I'm going to keep the channel. I'm going to continue doing high yield content, but it's going to be sporadic. I mean, I don't want to keep doing comparison charts, guys. Like it gets kind of boring. There's really no value there. There is a ton of new ETFs that have been dropping. I just have not had the time to go through them. I don't know if I'll be getting fund managers on the channel. I mean, it's not really something I aspire for. I don't wake up and say, I can't wait to get fund managers on the channel, right? There's other channels that do it and they do it very well. And they get ahead of the curve, more so than I can. So, there's that, but I will definitely still continue to do the high yield content on the original channel. Let's see. So I do appreciate you, the stock analyst. Thank you. We have from Sergio, you need more DRAM. I need either more DRAM, the memory, the physical memory, or I need more DRAM, the stock. Let's see. What else we have here? From Scrooge and Possum, bought a whopping 10 shares of DRAM under $49 today. Ramen is on me today. That's what I'm talking about. Hey man, you got to get that premium ramen, that Shin ramen. That stuff's like what? Like $3 now in the United States. Over here in Southeast Asia, I mean, I think it's under $1. Yeah, I mean, anyways. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. Again, always appreciate you guys joining me for the stream. Let's take a look at the heat map. As you guys can see, financials, there's a rotation of financials. Industrials got a nice bid. All right, we saw energy. Of course, energy got a nice bid. Consumer defensive, of course, catching a bid. All the tech seemed to have just, fell off a cliff. Semiconductors just went down. A lot to do. We're going to be talking about the memory trade here and the semiconductors here in a moment because there's actually some really good news coming out. And I think this was more or less just, a bit of profit taking. We also had, some people, a little scared of what's happening in Korea because there was a labor dispute. So we'll cover that here shortly. But we see, at least for the semiconductor, we see software catching a bid, which is nice because Palantir was up just a little bit today. But we see Intuit up 2.58%. We see CRM Salesforce up 3.44%. So that's good. We see Workday up 3.10%. FICO, the credit company, which is a software, is up 7.5%. Absolutely insane. All right. Semiconductors, again, also selling off. Let's take a look at futures and see how cooked we are tomorrow. Doesn't look like we're that cooked yet. Actually, if we take a look at energy for oil, down. All right. Still above $100, but, at least it's trending down in the right direction. And coffee, thank God, coffee's coming down because I got to buy some new bags of coffee today. Do appreciate everyone who has helped out with the coffee fund. All right. So crypto, Bitcoin down 76,000. All right. $76,500. All right. Down. Not doing too bad. All right. Bitcoin, I think, is kind of fighting to stay above the 200 WMA. It already pierced, rejected 3 times on trying to break out of the bear channel. And now, it's fighting for its life. But I think we're honestly going to be going to the $70,000 to $74,000 range. So I'm pausing all of my IBIT purchases or Bitcoin purchases for the moment. We have Wolf up in the chat. Hey, what's up, Wolf? Thank you. Whoa, that's not Wolf. That's Sergio. Hey, Wolf. Appreciate you joining. All right. So, excuse me, man, my voice is cracking today. All right. And yep, of course. Right as I was about to change screens, the computer is freezing yet again. So I got to start closing windows whenever this happens. I apologize for the technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what is happening with this damn computer today. There we go. Okay, let me close out of this window, get out of that window. S&P 500 down just 7 basis points. Not the worst in the world. All right, we can still live with that. So again, it still had a really nice jump up over the last 5 days, definitely over the last month, still up 4%. Again, whenever the index moves up or down 1%, that's really a big deal. And I mean, if we look at the last, when we were trending down, I mean, it was a massive jump, 18%, guys, 18%. That is a massive jump for the S&P 500. That has April Liberation Day 2025 vibes to it. Index moving 18% just in what, a couple of weeks. Absolutely incredible. All right. So let's get rid of that. We have DRAM. All right. This is the most favorite ETF of the tech trade, of the AI trade. DRAM, $9.5 billion in assets under management, the fastest growing ETF on the market. This one is down just a little bit. All right, it was wonky in the pre-market. It sold off, then it got, the dip got bought up, and then it sold off again. So, congrats to anyone who was able to get just a couple of shares of DRAM if you did buy in. Again, I don't think the story is over with memory. I think that would be foolhardy to think the story is over with memory. There is a real memory crunch. Again, I always talk about Micron. The CEO said that their future supply is pretty much already bought up. Okay, so I mean, if that's not a bullish signal for DRAM, HBM, SSD, NVMe, which are all memory and storage, I mean, I don't know what is. All right, and we still have 3,100 data centers in the works to be built out over these next couple of years. That CapEx spend, the 700 billion CapEx spend from hyperscalers is definitely going to benefit some of these companies in here. Okay, moving on from that, we have gold. Again, not doing jack squat. Not doing jack squat over the last 5 days, fell off a cliff. Over the last month, again, just down 6 months, still in the green, right? Year to date, still in the green, 5%. But ever since that large dip, again, it's just been trending down. And there is a possibility it's going to go even lower. And I'm all for it because, again, if you're following the debasement trade, the devaluing of the US dollar, it's a no-brainer to bet on gold and Bitcoin, in my opinion. At least that's where I'm placing my money. I'm definitely betting on gold and Bitcoin. Okay, speaking of Bitcoin, all right, down for the day, 35 basis points over the last 5 days, getting hammered, down almost 5.5% over the last month. 41 basis points year to date, not doing so hot, but it looked like it was climbing back up. All right, just so I could say I said it. There is still plenty of time for people, if you believe in Bitcoin, if you believe in the thesis for Bitcoin, to get back in. All right, or to get in. There's still a 34% upside to at least the last all-time highs. Okay, possible we'll chop for maybe another month or two, up and down, but Bitcoin's not going to go to zero, and it's not dead. All right, despite what Financial X is saying, Bitcoin is not dead. Despite what Peter Schiff keeps mentioning, Bitcoin is not dead. Okay, so moving on from that, we do have earnings coming up. Really, the only two companies that I mentioned this on Sunday's Invest and Chill session. The only two that I'm really looking forward to is NVIDIA and Analog Device. All right, these are really the only two. Really, more so, it's NVIDIA. This is going to be the big one, guys. I think this, and I spoke about this yesterday. NVIDIA is pretty much going to hold up the whole market like it has done the last couple of quarters. Everyone's going to look for earnings, see what they're doing. I think there's going to be a focus on whether they're going to be able to sell chips to China or not. And then we also have Analog Devices. I don't know too much about them. I actually want to do a little bit of surface level DD on them just to understand what they do. Obviously technology, so I'm always kind of focused there. But again, just to cover from yesterday's stream, in case you did not catch it, Advanced Auto Parts put out an email to its regional manager saying that they're going to run into supply issues for motor oil. All right, Exxon, a lot of the major producers of motor oil are saying that they're having trouble with supply chain, obviously Strait of Hormuz related stuff. So the supply shocks are starting to show very lightly. They're starting to show in the United States. Okay, petroleum products, again, fertilizer. We covered this in a previous stream some time ago, but fertilizer is a very expensive. There was a uptick of bankruptcies for farmers because they can't afford the fertilizer, right? And that is obviously not good, right? And this all has to do with the Strait of Hormuz. So moving on from that, we're going to, let's see. This is nothing. We can move on from this. So just to cover some wins here, and I don't know if Victor is in the chat. So hello, Sinusat Capital. Thank you for joining. Let's see what else we got. Love from Canada from the stock analyst. Thank you. Appreciate it. I love everyone. So thank you. So just some wins. All right. Some short-term community wins. All right. So Victor put this out in the community a few days ago, 5/16. He said GCTS picked up 500 at $1.52. I unfortunately was asleep at the wheel and missed the initial pump. All right. But we saw GCTS take off over the last 5 days, up 61%. All right. So up 61%. Again, guys, actually up 83% if you bought in when he bought in. Absolutely amazing. Just amazing. All right. So I did some surface level GCTS due diligence. And what's important about this company, just really at a high level. You guys can double check this. They are working on 5G SOC, they call it SOC, 5G SOC chips, right? So they're going to be working with the space providers, the satellite space providers, and non-terrestrial, internet providers, I suppose, or the mechanism to reach these satellites. Again, it's very surface level DD. I haven't really deep dived into this company yet. But it was a very interesting company. All right. It is a small cap, micro cap, whatever you want to call them. Very small company, very high risk. Do your own due diligence, high risk of high loss. Okay. Let's keep that in perspective here. But anyways, yeah, a SOC chip is a system on a chip. All right. In case you were wondering what that acronym means. But anyways, shout out to anyone that was able to get in on this buy. Okay. I'm sure you guys were very happy. I myself was able to get in on it earlier today. I did see quite a nice little pump on the stock. All right. So I'm pretty happy. So again, all of this is available in the community, in the Discord for free. You guys can join, no paywall, nothing like that. We're just a bunch of boring investors that talk nonsense. All right. So I just wanted to cover that win for the group. Okay. So we have a big deal today. All right. Kmem from Kurv has dropped. We were expecting kind of a 30 to 90, basically 30 to 90 day, lag time before this ETF dropped. But it looks like they went ahead and just dropped it even earlier. This will be a direct competitor to Chippy and Soxy. If you guys don't know what Chippy and Soxy is, Chippy's ETF from YieldMax. It's a option income ETF for the semiconductor sector. So think of something like SMH as the ETF, right? Right now it's pumping out a 45% distribution. All of YouTube, all of X loves Chippy, right? Because the underlier, SMH, the semiconductor companies, they've all been doing exceptionally well, right? So if there was ever a downturn, Chippy would obviously lose favor and people would be like, Chippy sucks. But, so far, it's been doing exceptionally well. There's also Soxy, which is the lesser known of the income ETFs for semiconductors. This is from, target 12%, right? Anyways, coming back to Kmem, this is coming from Kurv. Kurv, if you guys don't know, if you look at some of their other ETFs, they have amazing products. Okay, they have KCOP, KSilv, KGold. These are income ETFs for gold, silver, copper, and mining. And then they also have the single stock ones, which they've been pretty successful. Almost, I want to say no NAV erosion, to be honest. I want to use that term, but I can't say that with 100% conviction. But, compared to some of their other competitors out there, Kurv has absolutely smashed these out of the park. Amazon or AMZP, GOOP, NFLP, AAPY. They're also coming out with an NVIDIA one and a Meta. So they're going to have the Mag 7. And these are, income strategies on these underliers, on these individual stocks. So again, shout out, to Kurv for doing an excellent job there. They also came out with a liquid ETF. Again, this one's also very, very unique. But anyways, moving on from that, Kmem Kurv Memory Select ETF. So this is a pure play memory exposure. This is an income product. I had to go through the prospectus just to double check it. But yes, they will be doing an options overlay strategy on memory. At least that's what they listed in the prospectus. Because reading through this website, it almost looks like it's just a pure play memory, but it's not. It's an income product. But anyways, you'll get the same memory exposure you would get in DRAM, but you'll also get that in Kurv. And Kurv is going to be selecting companies based on that, right? I have not seen what they have as far as their holdings. I was trying to look for it, but they have not released that as of now. I'm sure they'll probably update the website and release it later. But you also, and the inception date, let's see, where's the inception date? I definitely saw that. Oh, I guess they took it away. Yeah, because they had the inception, they had the inception date set for today, but I guess they updated the website. So anyways, something to keep on your radars, all right? Especially if you want an alternative to Chippy, or if you want an alternative to Soxy, or if you want to be able to make some type of distribution income, passive income, all those buzzwords off of the memory trade, okay? So you can hold the shares, get the appreciation, and potentially make some type of income from that. So definitely something worth keeping on a watch list. All right, so moving on from these three. All right. Just want to plug only ETFs. Okay. Only ETFs. Yes, that is a kind of a gimmick. But this is something I started with Skeptic. Skeptic is in the chat, I believe, or maybe he's probably a little later or something. But yes, Only ETFs is a collab between myself and Skeptic, and we're basically just going over ETFs in general. Okay, just ETFs, only ETFs. Okay, so all things ETF related. So we'll be covering not just high yield stuff. We'll be covering things like EUV, as you guys saw here. All right, so we'll be covering that ETF. You guys should check out that video. We'll also be covering just random ETFs in general and how they, kind of relate to what's going on right now in the macro. All right, so, okay, now that we got all the house cleaning stuff, let's talk about a little bit of macro here. Okay, so we have from Donald Trump, he posted this today. Basically, it's a taco event that he will be halting any planned military attack on Iran. Which was scheduled for tomorrow, for Tuesday. Okay, he was asked by the basically the government of Qatar, government of UAE, and Saudi Arabia to halt the attacks. And it does look like some type of negotiations are at least progressing. So that is also why he's kind of holding that off for now. Really, his big thing is, or at least from the U.S. government's perspective, just nuclear. They can't have a nuclear weapon, right? Not going to get into the politics of this, but that is essentially what most of this, Okay, we're back. We're back. This is so unbelievable, man. I don't know what is going on with my computer, with my network today. Absolutely unbelievable. Anyways, sorry about that, guys. I am so sorry about that. We are back. Apologize. All right, apologies. Let's see if we can get everything back to the way it was. Looks like X is good. Looks like YouTube is good. All right, so I apologize, guys. Again, I don't know what is going on with my network over here. I definitely am going to have to start unplugging stuff and figuring it out. All right. Anyways, we got Rod Stamon up in the chat. Hey, welcome. And good call on the on Keel, because we saw that was one of the buys for one of the prodigy fund managers. Anyways, getting back to geopolitics. All right. So anyways, Donald Trump's going to hold off on attacks. This is obviously bullish. This is good for the markets. So again, we just got to get up to NVIDIA earnings, and then hopefully after that, maybe we can continue on with this bull market and get on. So anyways, so moving on from our geopolitics news. All right, let's talk about Seagate. Seagate is in DRAM. In case you guys didn't know, Seagate is in DRAM. It did have a large sell-off along with some of the other companies. But this is coming from the CEO, right? Because they're asking, there's a JP Morgan conference, and they're asking, basically, hey, can you guys just make new factories and then increase production? Like, that sounds easy, right? But the CEO said it would take too long to just build new factories. It's easily a 2-year process to build a new fab or to build a new production facility. All right, so I just highlighted some things here real quick that the CEO did say. He said if we took the teams off and started building new factories or bringing up new machines, that would take just too long. You would end up with more capacity, but then you'd slow the rate of growth on that technology because people are focused on the factory, right? So it would be kind of, some short-term pain. So, moving on, he said he continued to say, very long lead times, right? That's what would happen. And maintaining predictability with its clients. Oh my God, excuse me. Sorry. Let me reset here. Okay. So chip production cycles stretch over many quarters for a single unit, and investors are increasingly wary of how long the leading memory makers can capture demand. CME Group is launching a new futures market for semiconductors, enabling more trades to lock in prices and hedge against the rising prices of computing power. At Monday's conference, Mosley, the CEO of Seagate, also addressed the very long lead times and maintaining predictability with its clients. We know what's coming out from a year from now. And we've basically gone to the customer and said, look, if you want to plan this really well, which it should be for your data centers, we know what's coming out. You can buy this stuff up to a certain period. And so we want to keep that 4 or 5 quarters of visibility very, very solid for what's being built. The key words here are visibility for 4 or 5 quarters. All right, that's 15 months. That's about 2 years, close to 2 years. That means that the demand for this stuff is there. And these hyperscalers, these companies building these data centers, they're going to buy easily, all this hardware worth all of those quarters and put them into like warehouses or keep them in a basement or something like that, right? Because the data centers aren't built. So they can pre-buy this stuff and then just hold it. So the demand is there, right? So that's coming out of the CEO of Seagate and kind of why it sold off. But there's some bigger news here as well. Let me just check the chat real fast. Grumpy Toad says, my fiber internet has been awful the last few months for what it's worth, man. I'm telling you, I'm on Wi-Fi and I don't know what is going on. Okay. So anyways, that was Seagate talking about the lag and lead time for building new factories and why it doesn't make sense. But we had Intel come out, right? They said the foundry business is gaining momentum as customer interest grows. This is really bullish for Intel, and Intel is a complete turnaround, a 180 turnaround. The stock was pretty much dead just last year, and now it's on an amazing comeback. Okay. So Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan said Monday that the company's external manufacturing business is gaining traction, emerging as a key piece of the chip maker's turnaround. Intel's manufacturing business, known as Foundry, is the most expensive and crucial parts of the company's revitalization strategy. It is designed to manufacture semiconductors for outside customers. Think about that. Intel will be designing semiconductors for outside companies. The biggest maker of these chips at the moment is TSMC, having well over 70% of the market share for the production of NVIDIA, AMD chips. Okay, so Intel could possibly have a partnership with NVIDIA or AMD in the future, and Intel start producing those chips onshore within the United States. All right. So it is designed to manufacture semiconductors for outside customers while helping rebuild advanced chip production capacity in the United States after years of overseas dominance. Historically, Intel factories only produced its own chips using personal computers, data center servers. Tan's predecessor, Pat Gelsinger, championed the pricey external foundry strategy. All right. And then here's some other news. Beyond Intel's turnaround, Tan framed the foundry business as strategically important for the U.S. semiconductor supply chain. And that's probably why the Trump administration took a stake in this company. And we saw just this insane turnaround story. All right. Intel has built a new plant in Arizona where it uses the 18A process, while a separate project in Ohio has faced major delays and isn't set to start production until at least 2030. We also know TSMC and Micron are building in Arizona. All right, 90+% of the most advanced processors is manufactured outside of the country, he said. So I think it's important to bring some of that back. Looking further ahead, Tan said Intel's next generation 14A process could eventually compete with TSMC. Widely considered the leading third-party chip maker, it will be the same time as TSMC. He said that is a major, major breakthrough. So again, Intel is a turnaround story. Absolutely incredible. If we just look at the 1-year chart, I mean, you guys look at that. You guys look at that and tell me. It absolutely insane. So I see we have Vladdy back in the chat. Hey, welcome back. So Intel, I mean, it's a good turnaround story. They could potentially start making chips for companies inside the United States. This will reduce reliance on TSMC because, again, the problem with TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Company, is that it sits in a very, very hard spot. You have China on the opposite side that wants to basically reunify Taiwan with China, which means, a potential invasion that could take TSMC out. Over the last couple of years, TSMC has been moving production to the United States, to that Arizona plant. But even so, they will not be able to produce as much chips as they can produce in Taiwan. Taiwan is literally powering the entire AI trade, because if you were to take Taiwan out, Intel cannot produce enough chips yet. All of the new, factories, fab plants that are being produced are not ready yet. You would literally take out NVIDIA and AMD, and that would be a massive blow to the United States, right? China does have its own foundry. They call it SMIC. So SMIC is its own, nationalized foundry. And the United States has Intel. And just, again, for just so I can say I said it, don't forget that AMD and Intel are the only two CPU makers right now in America. The only two. They produce the server chips and the desktop chips. And there is a shortage for CPU chips, okay? Right now, the story was all about GPUs. But as we start to move into artificial intelligence inference training and native AI, you're going to want CPUs. And right now, the ratio is like a 1-to-8 CPU, GPU in data centers. It could start to close to 4-to-8 and eventually 1-to-1, right? So something to keep on your radars, something to keep in the back of your mind in case you want to understand why Intel is so important now to the trade. And maybe this is cheap, right? Maybe this is cheap right here. $108. Maybe that is potentially cheap. If we look at the max, yeah, I mean, that's pretty crazy. Holy hell, that's pretty crazy. But anyways, yes, maybe it's cheap right now, right? Especially for what Intel could potentially do in the future, and with the explosive demand for chips, semiconductors. All right, so let's move on from that. So far, it looks like the internet is doing okay. So we're going to move on to what's happening overseas. Samsung strike looms, causing ripple effects through memory stocks. And this is why DRAM is also taking a hit. All right, so let's listen in on what is going on in South Korea.
5% there. Christina Partsenevelis has the latest on that story. Christina?
Well, Kelly, there was actually a big reversal because Micron was up in pre-market, and just memory and storage names today really coming down to the Samsung strike story, which is starting to cool off a bit. For the past week, investors were focused on the possibility of an 18-day strike at Samsung Electronics. Big deal because this is the world's largest memory chip maker. The fear was that any production hit could tighten memory supply and actually push memory prices even higher. But today, I would say sentiment's shifting a little bit after a South Korean court took steps to make sure Samsung's chip lines keep running even if the strike happens on Thursday. Negotiations also from the company saying that it's ongoing with the union and they're continuing ahead of Thursday's deadline. So that's seen as a positive. But there was another big move today, and that was a comment coming from the former Samsung chip chief, Kyung, who said at a Korean forum this morning that memory prices could fall in the second half of next year as Chinese companies aggressively invest in memory chip production. He said if that new capacity actually comes online successfully from China, it could actually create a big enough supply increase to push prices lower. So another negative for the memory space. Then third point is that storage name Seagate, that you can see is down 8%, one of the weakest names today after CEO Dave Mosley said at the JP Morgan conference this morning that building new factories and bringing on new machines would, quote, just take too long, suggesting maybe the industry can't quickly add capacity even if demand stays strong. So after a huge run in memory names this year, this past month, this past few weeks, today's fall might just be investors reassessing how tight this market may look going forward.
Christina, what you said there in the middle about, was it Samsung who made those comments about chip prices maybe falling in the back half? That's a big deal.
It's a Sam that he used to lead a certain department within Samsung. He is still an advisor for Samsung himself, and he gave a presentation at a forum in South Korea. And when he spoke, he said that China is working so aggressively to put memory supply on the market that he believes memory chip prices will fall because that supply is about to come on the market in the next few months or so. This is one man's comment, but you take his, I guess the market is eating it up within the chip world because he's a Samsung advisor.
Right. Well, and also anything that would point towards, when that cycle turns, watch out. Christina, thanks.
So a Samsung exec or advisor said that eventually the chips that they're producing, they'll have an overabundance, right? And this becomes less of a scarce trade, less of a bottleneck. And once that hits, then prices will come down. Will DRAM also come down, right? Will the stock prices finally cool off and come back down to earth? I think that's a good question to think about, because I mean, in the broader picture, in the bigger picture, I don't think the demand is going to stop, even if the supply eventually hits. But it is something to think about. But again, this story is easily for the next decade, the next 10 years, right? Data centers are going to be built out. They take 2 years minimum, probably a year and a half to build, depending on how fast they can build them. There's 3,100 planned data centers. You still have insatiable demand for semiconductors like NVIDIA, eventually Intel, and now AMD. AMD's Lisa Su just went to China, just went to Beijing. And, again, she will probably be coming back with some good news. She's probably going over there to shore up some business and sell her chips. Again, NVIDIA, Jensen Huang was on that plane, and I thought it was kind of weird that Lisa Su wasn't on the plane, but Lisa Su, I guess, went after the fact, not to overshadow the event. But anyways, in any case, can DRAM fall? Can this DRAM trade come to a screeching halt if the Samsung advisor is right? And once the supply hits, then prices come down. Probably stocks will come down with it. Or is the demand still there that the stocks will continue to climb? I think these are kind of some interesting questions. We had Jordy Visser. He runs 22V Research. He actually exited his DRAM, not because he's not bullish on DRAM, but he thinks he pretty much hit his all-time highs, right? So he exited some of the semiconductor space, memory space. So again, I thought that was an interesting take. I haven't really thought about it myself. I'm still up quite a bit on DRAM, but with everything still going on, the Hormuz is still closed. Eventually, these DRAM companies, these companies producing memory, they're going to run into an issue because they need gas from the Middle East in order to produce these semiconductors. They're working off of reserves right now. And, we saw a couple of months ago, Samsung said that they have no issues. They have plenty of supplies for a while. They're looking at other supply chains. Then you had Micron saying, oh, we got plenty of reserves. We're good. Then you had SK Hynix come out and say, they're not too worried as well. But how long are those reserves going to last? You still have a lot of Southeast Asian countries. You still have a lot of Eastern countries that are, our Far East countries that are starting to run into fuel issues, right? They're burning through their national reserves, and it's probably no farther than another week and a week or two before they really start to feel the pinch again, like even harder. And again, those ripple effects are going to start coming to the United States. So right now we're in a K-shaped, I don't want to say a K-shaped economy, but a K-shaped market where the entire market, the entire S&P 500 is being held up just by the memory trade, just by the semiconductor and the AI trade. That is really what's propping it all up. The hyperscalers. You take away that, if the hyperscalers was to ever say, "Hey, we're scaling back on our capex spend," then we will definitely see a massive drop in the market. Coming from Build 8324, what's up, Build? Appreciate having you on. You'll have upgrades with the next generation of chips. There should always be demand, even if it shows. Yes, I also agree with that sentiment, especially since the space race is going to be the next frontier. And we just saw a Figure. We were covering it on yesterday's stream. The Figure robot, still working. Our boy Jim is still working. Even now, all right, Jim is still putting in those hours. I think he's running 108 hours now or something like that. So again, if there's going to be more production of robots, you're still going to need all those chips, all those semiconductors, etc. All right, so a lot of interesting questions to be answered. And again, we have to just think about the demand. I don't have a chart, but I wish I did at this moment because the demand is just going crazy. NVIDIA predicts that there will be up to $3 to $4 trillion of capex spend by 2030. And when you start thinking about that amount of money being pumped into the market, right, into the economy from building, who are the companies that are going to be benefiting from all of this, right? All of this money that the hyperscalers are building out, right? Or are paying for. So absolutely fascinating stuff. Okay, so moving on, we're going to move into a crypto kind of segment. All right, we're past the macro, we're past kind of the memory and AI stuff. So we're going to move into some crypto stuff. All right, so the SEC readies plan for trading crypto versions of stock, and this is coming from Bloomberg News. This is really a big deal, and I'll tell you why. Okay, the Trump administration plans to unveil a framework for trading tokenized or digital versions of securities. Citing people familiar with the matter, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, is expected to release an innovation exemption for tokenized stocks as soon as this week. This is a big deal. Let's find out why. All right, so you're going to have third-party issuance. Okay, so you're not going to have just the major brokerages, probably Robinhood, Coinbase, in my opinion. You're going to have all these other ones, all these crypto-centric brokerages coming out, the DEXs or the SEXs, right? The crypto exchanges or the decentralized exchanges. The framework permits decentralized platforms to create and trade blockchain-based tokens linked to publicly traded equities without authorization from the issuing company. So think of the private market. And how many companies you wish you could buy. Like there's RVI, right? Robinhood Venture Fund. You have Stripe, you have OpenAI, right? Maybe Anduril from VCX. You have Anduril. You also have Anthropic or SpaceX that's not yet public. But imagine all of these other private companies that you wish you could invest into. You just can't. Well, tokenized securities allows you to invest in them, even though they're not publicly listed. Right? It allows you to trade or invest in them through a third party, right? So that is what is so fascinating about this new development, the innovation exemption coming from the SEC. So it's an alternative trading infrastructure, provides a pathway for crypto native platforms like Coinbase to offer tokenized stocks with lighter regulatory requirements. We know that Robinhood's already explored this. They're offering tokenized securities to people in Europe, to the European market, and people were buying tokenized OpenAI. Huge deal. OpenAI came out and said, hey, even though you own the tokenized, stock of our private, our private shares, that doesn't mean anything, right? That gives you zero shareholder rights, zero shareholding voting rights. So that's what is also coming up, right? Tokenized stocks traded under this exemption do not necessarily include traditional equity privileges like voting rights or dividends. And it's a big push by the SEC, right? If they're trying to push it this week, that's huge. But why is this all of a sudden huge news? Because SpaceX is already trading. Yes, SpaceX is already trading on-chain using Hyperliquid. Okay, so Hype, which is a crypto coin, pops 7%, beating Bitcoin declines as SpaceX pre-IPO lands on Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid is a crypto exchange, okay, a decentralized crypto exchange. Excuse me if I blow some of these terminologies, if I mess them up, because again, I'm not super involved in the crypto space, so I'm reading it and trying to learn as I go. But yes, Hyperliquid is a trading platform similar to like a Coinbase, and you can trade gold on there. You could trade, tokenized stocks, tokenized gold, tokenized whatever, right? You could do a lot of leverage trading on Hyperliquid as well, and they use their own token, the Hype coin, in order to accomplish a lot of this. So you're getting like synthetic exposure to SpaceX. So real quick, let's just cover, where is it? We can leave that alone. Okay, so the contract with reference to SpaceX, right? Launching on Hyperliquid. The contract launched with a reference price of $150 and an initial market cap of $1.78 trillion based on SpaceX's reportedly fully diluted share count of 11.87 billion. All right, this sits inside the $1.75 trillion to $2 trillion range SpaceX is targeting for its public offering, as Coinbase reported earlier this month after the company filed confidentially with the SEC on April 1st. The thing that's important about this is price discovery. Okay, so you're already seeing the demand for SpaceX through Hyperliquid. Okay, they also trade Anthropic, they also trade OpenAI. So you can actually see this stuff live, which is really interesting because, if you're thinking about investing into an IPO or a pre-IPO, you can kind of get the market's feel for it, and you can kind of see where these companies, these private companies are trading. All right, SpaceX is holding also, I didn't know this, but SpaceX is holding 8,285 Bitcoin in Coinbase Prime custody, a position that will appear in the public filings for the first time. They also have a Bitcoin treasury, which I think is very interesting. Definitely cool for people involved in Bitcoin. SpaceX is a synthetic perpetual, which means that no actual SpaceX share change hands. All right, traders bet on the implied price of the underlying stock through a derivative that tracks the reference valuation with funding rates and Oracle Fed price feeds, keeping the contract anchored to its reference. All right, so that is SpaceX already trading right now on Hyperliquid on chain. And this is why this SEC innovation is so important, because it just dropped and Hyperliquid's already trading SpaceX. So really interesting things happening there. And again, I don't use Hyperliquid. I am not a trader by any stretch of the imagination. And I definitely don't want to get liquidated going long or short. But there was something interesting about Hyperliquid. So I learned about Hyperliquid through Arthur Hayes. Arthur Hayes is on YouTube. You can check him out. He's on X as well. He runs his own Maelstrom fund, which invests in coins and, very successful. He's a Bitcoin OG. He was at the Bitcoin conference. He was also at the, I think, Confluence conference or the Consensus conference in Miami this past couple of weeks. So Arthur Hayes is a name that's well known within the kind of the Bitcoin space, but he's been extremely bullish on Hyperliquid, and he mentioned Hyperliquid a couple of times on a few podcasts and why he's so bullish on Hyperliquid. So I decided to take a look into it, and there was some news about Goldman Sachs exiting XRP and Solana ETF positions for Hyperliquid exposure. This is huge. Like, this is crazy. Goldman Sachs cut its reported exposure to XRP and Solana exchange traded products in the first quarter, while adding a smaller position tied to one of the year's fastest growing on-chain trading stories. All right. The more notable addition was Hyperliquid Strategies, ticker PURR, which is a DAT. It is a digital asset treasury for Hyperliquid. Okay, so they buy the hype coin similar to MSTR, similar to BMNR. All right, a NASDAQ-listed digital asset treasury company focused on the Hyperliquid ecosystem. Goldman acquired about 654,000 shares of the company, valued at nearly 3.3 million. So it's really a drop in the bucket, but it's still interesting nonetheless, giving it indirect exposure to Hype token through a public market wrapper rather than a direct altcoin ETF. All right, the timing lines up with a broader push to package Hyperliquid for traditional investors. So now this is even more reason to be bullish on Hyperliquid. Bitwise launched its spot Hyperliquid ETF, BHYP, on the New York Stock Exchange last week, saying that Hyperliquid processed $2.9 trillion in trading volume in 2025 and held about 60% of global on-chain derivatives in open interest. So Hyperliquid is a broker that is definitely here to stay. It is not a shit coin, as some would probably call it. And aside from the coin, it actually has a good project behind it, right? Not only is the brokerage a real brokerage, making actual revenue, et cetera, but holders of Hype token actually get rewarded for holding Hype token based on the trading value or trading volume that's happening on Hyperliquid. So kind of convoluted, all right? And I'm not saying go buy this. None of this is financial advice. But I opened a position in PUR, ticker PURR, a couple of days ago. And then this news drops. So I was kind of blown away. So my position in PUR already jumped up, I think 14 or 15% last I checked. But this is the DAT. This is the digital asset treasury company, similar to like MSTR, similar to BMNR. So you guys can check them out if you're interested. But Bitwise launched a ETF, BHYP, for spot Hyperliquid. So even Bitwise thinks this is very important. Here's why. Hyperliquid is a high-performance layer 1 blockchain built for on-chain trading and decentralized finance, best known for its perpetual futures exchange. Hyperliquid saw 2.9 trillion in trading volume in 2025, an increase of more than 400% from the prior year. 400% increase from the prior year. That's leaps and bounds. All right. The platform commands approximately 60% of all on-chain derivatives open interest globally. The processes approximately 200,000 orders per second, giving traders fast, transparent, and secure access to financial markets while managing custody risk. Hyperliquid has emerged as one of the most compelling investment opportunities in crypto today, said Matt Hogan, Chief Investment Officer at Bitwise. When geopolitics tension spiked on Sunday morning in February and traditional markets were closed, the world turns to Hyperliquid for price discovery. That's what we saw with the SpaceX. Bloomberg cited its crude oil contract as the most relevant price in the market. That moment underscored what the data already showed. Hyperliquid has built serious, durable infrastructure for on-chain economy, and indeed the economy in general. BHYP is designed to give investors convenient exposure to that potential, with the added benefit of in-house staking to seek to maximize returns. So even Bitwise is taking Hyperliquid serious. So I was very happy to get into ticker PURR semi-early. I learned about it a couple of weeks ago, and I completely forgot to do the due diligence on it, or at least, scratch the surface. But yeah, I am so far, moderately bullish on Hyperliquid. Again, there is a huge amount of risk with this coin. Specifically, we all know what a rug pull is. Most of the developers do have a good portion of their coins, of the coin supply. But Hyperliquid did release, I think, 30% of its total supply of coins to the general market. And then I think the developers have a huge stake in their coins as well. I think it's about 30%, 20 to 30%. I could be wrong there, but very interesting stuff here. So let's see what we got in the chat. So we have Butterknife. I am here. How's everyone doing? Well, I hope we are all doing well, at least surviving the Armageddon that happened in the markets today, Butterknife. So appreciate you joining. We have from Padre. Kind of surprised companies aren't releasing more ETFs for what they think is coming in the future. Gold ETFs were late. Photonics started a year ago. Come on, money managers, and do your job. Scratch the surface of purr, says Padre. Okay. Well, I can't even hide this comment. What's going on here? Well, we're going to just have to rock with it. But yeah, I mean, to your point, Padre, what is interesting is that, again, we covered it at the beginning of the stream. There's only one Photonics play right now, one Photonics ETF, and that is EUV from Corgi Funds. And I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, in case we have any late viewers, if you want to check out that video, it's on a new channel. It's a collaboration between Skeptic and myself. And the channel is called Only ETFs, similar to OnlyFans. All right, it's a joke. But anyways, yeah, we discuss EUV. I also posted it on my X in case you guys want to check that out. I think it's a pretty decent video. It definitely covers some of the finer points of EUV and kind of why that market is so important. So here is the post on X. Again, if you guys want to go check it out, I said the EUV and Photonics could potentially be the next big trade under the AI trade. Similar to how memory ETF DRAM offers investors a unique way to invest in the memory bottlenecks for DRAM, HBM, and NAND, EUV offers another way to invest in the semiconductor supply chain and data center CapEx theme. All right, and then we go over the whole thesis behind it. So, cool. Well, we are close to the top of the hour. We only have 2 bits of news left, and that is strategy. So for any of our MSTR shareholders out there, congratulations. Michael Saylor bought $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. All right. He bought 24,000, almost 23,000 Bitcoin at $2 billion. He mostly funded this with Stretch. STRT is the ticker. And did I say sticker? STRC is the ticker, and he used just a little bit of the ATM from MSTR. So again, Saylor is just on an absolute rip, laser eyes, just acquiring as much Bitcoin as he can possibly get. There's just not enough Bitcoin being mined, and he is just buying all of it. So right now, it's a race to 1 million between Michael Saylor's strategy and iBit from BlackRock. We also had some news from BM&R. I just like to cover them because obviously I'm a shareholder, so I care about BM&R. Bitmine provided its latest holding update for May 18th. Okay, they are very, very close to their 5% alchemy. They currently hold 5 million or 5.2 million ETH at an average price of $2,191. They still have their stake in Beast Industries, their $83 million stake in 8Co, and 202 Bitcoin, which is not really all that, big of a deal. But yes, still bullish on Ethereum, the story behind Ethereum, the tailwinds for Ethereum, and Wall Street moving on to Ethereum blockchain. As a matter of fact, Hyperliquid also, I believe, runs on the Ethereum, or it connects to the Ethereum blockchain. Again, don't hold me to that. I'm still trying to figure out how all these decentralized exchanges and everything else work. Let's see, Hypecoin on Ethereum. Let's see. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to do some more due diligence on that stuff. But yes, so Bitmine's doing well. Obviously, it sold off. Yesterday, I was talking about how shareholders are getting out of BM&R because they can't take the pain anymore. They lost complete sight of the whole thesis for Ethereum. And they think that, BM&R is supposed to trade 1-for-1 with Ethereum, which is not the truth at all. It is a leveraged play, amplified exposure on Ethereum. So the moves up will be amplified. The moves down will be even more amplified. Okay. So people just seem to forget that. And I think it's stupid. They're borrowing conviction from other people, probably other YouTubers, probably other X posters, without doing their own due diligence, because it's obvious that when Ethereum drops, Bitcoin drops, MSTR, BM&R will fall along with it. The same thing for Hypecoin. If Hypecoin was to drop, then PER is going to drop. So very obvious stuff, but people seem to forget that stuff. Have you mentioned the Hindenburg moments recently? No, I have not. I don't have an article or a post. I did see the Hindenburg omen. Hindenburg omen. So just for all of us to learn. All right, the Hindenburg omen is a controversial technical indicator used by some analysts to predict potential stock market crashes. And the Hindenburg omen has been going crazy as of late. From some of the posts that I did see, or some of the posts that were shared inside the community. Again, if you guys want that links down below in the description, under connect with me. But anyways, yeah. So the whole idea behind the Hindenburg stuff, there's some indicators that are showing that we're going to be due for a very large crash or correction. I don't know if I 100%, subscribe to it. I mean, there's 1,000 indicators out there. There's a Warren Buffett indicator as well. He's hoarding a bunch of cash, expecting this market to fall. Now you have the Hindenburg omen. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there, and I could believe it could happen. And the reason is because, again, the oil shocks are waiting to be felt. Inflation is going rampant, mostly due to energy. So if this does not get solved, the Strait of Hormuz does not get solved, you have Kevin Warsh, who's going to be sworn in on Friday, last I saw. And they're going to have their first meeting sometime in the next, month or so. And are we going to get rate cuts? I don't think so. I really don't think we're going to get rate cuts. And if inflation continues to climb, we're going to have negative real rates. That's not going to be good either, right? I mean, you could just look at the environment and tell that is not going to be good. That'll be good, bullish for probably gold and Bitcoin. That's what I'm betting my money on. Again, the debasement trade. You're also, talking about, fiat currency just being absolute butt and devaluing almost every single day. So Padre says, when there are multiple Hindenburg omens, pay attention. Last time I said something smells funny, we went down. That is true. That is true. That was back in, I want to say October. I think it was October was when that happened. I remember you sold your entire port. You went straight to cash. I remember that. So we'll see. Maybe the memory trade is gonna just blow up in our face and then go down. Well, I think that is it for this stream, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I see anything else on X or anything in any of the other news cycles. Let's see. No, I don't see anything. Yep, I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and call it because I got to get going anyways. All right, but appreciate the 15 viewers on X and to the 36 viewers on YouTube. Thank you for joining. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next stream. You guys take care and have a good one.